Hello everybody. Sorry it's taken me so long to do a new video. It has taken me a long time. A lot of new changes in my life have happened, and also, like I said the last time, my iMovie's crapped out on me. However, I'm going to try and edit this one, so hopefully I can. But also, I talked about the Pink Floyd reissues on vinyl, and there's really nothing coming out yet as far as Beatles related stuff, which is what my channel originally started out to be. And except when the Flowers in the Dirt Paul McCartney box set comes out, I will talk about that, and I'll talk about the controversy surrounding it, justifiably so. But I want to talk about another obsession that I have, and that other obsession is classical music. I love classical music, and I love composers. Just like everything else, I have composers that I'm obsessed about, going from the legends like Mozart and Debussy and Bach and Beethoven. Aaron Copland is probably one of my favorite all-time composers. But then there's also the modern classical that I love. One of my favorite composers as well is Philip Glass. And when I heard his stuff, that opened up a new world to me. And my classical music journey actually begins when I was a little kid, hearing my grandfathers on my mom's side. He played classical music all the time. He had classical albums, operas, and symphonies. And the operas I was drawn to, big time. I loved classical music. I used to love watching the local PBS channel in Chicago and watching, the New York Philharmonic or the Chicago Symphony, or the performances at the Met. As a kid, I listened to it for pleasure. And something happened when I went to high school that made my relationship a bit more complicated. Now, when I was younger and I discovered that The Who did Tommy, and Tommy was called a rock opera, and Jesus Christ Superstar was called a rock opera, then finally I was like, yes, I love classical music, but that's for older people. This is a rock opera. That's for me. And then in high school, I got into a debate with my music theory teacher about Tommy. He was also my jazz band director, but he loved rock and roll as well. But we got in this discussion. Tommy was not a rock opera, he said. It was a cantata or a song cycle. It wasn't an opera, blah, 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 blah. At that point, doing music theory in school and in college, you always have to go back to the Baroque period when you're studying music, and you have to learn about the rules of Bach. You have to learn about the rules that the Baroque period taught us nowadays. And I'm like, that's when classical music became a chore for me, because no more could I listen to this music for pleasure when I wanted to. It now became a homework assignment. And that's in music theory. I know how to read music, I know how to write music, but having to do music homework really bunned me out of even music theory and wanting to write it. As a former rebellion, I remember I asked my music teacher, are people still writing operas? Because I didn't know. He says, oh yeah, haven't you heard of Philip Glass? Oh yeah, you need to check out Einstein on the Beach. And I decided as a former rebellion to throw off the other classical music and check out these modern composers. And I dove headlong into Philip Glass, The Deep End with Einstein on the Beach, and I loved it. I loved it. I got into his other operas like Satyagraha and Akhenaten. I was one of those people who would go into Tower Records, by the way, and look at the opera CD section, which used to go along the walls, and obsess over these type of boxes on CDs, seeing these on the wall. And I noticed these were the first two I ever bought in the mid-90s of Philip Glass. Akhenaten, which I think is a masterpiece, and his second opera about the life of Gandhi, Satyagraha. I dug deeper with John Adams, and then I discovered Steve Reich and Terry Riley, but also I discovered Penderecki and Bartók. And of course, all these great people. And of course, Frank Zappa, one of my heroes in rock, was also a composer, a modern composer. And I loved his stuff. I got really back into classical music in the mid-2000s. I mean, I was always into opera, but I really got back into it headlong to the point where I'm a member of the classical station in Arizona, KBOC. I'm a subscriber because classical stations are member owned. And I started buying classical music again, some of these pieces that I've always loved. And I'm always looking for something to spark my curiosity in classical music. A couple years ago, I looked up an article for modern operas. And one of the ones I discovered was this by Thomas Aids, The Tempest, based on Shakespeare's story. This is, opera's not dead, kids. People are still writing new operas. And Mark Anthony Turnage's Anna Nicole, about Anna Nicole Smith, a 3-act opera. There's a great DVD of it done by the Royal Opera House on Opus Art, opera DVD company, who puts out some great productions. So you need to take a look at that. That's a great opera. So opera's still alive. What I'm trying to say here is always be on the lookout for new things. Never shy away from anything. Do some research. If you're curious about something, look it up on the internet. You may be surprised in anything. My love of classical music came back to the point where it's a passion, and I'm not the kind of person that says, oh my gosh, it's relaxing. I'm the kind of person that, just like with a Pink Floyd or Jimi Hendrix album, will sit with my headphones and listen to the 1812 Overture by Tchaikovsky and get goosebumps all over me, or The Pines of Rome by Ottorino Respighi, especially the final movement of that, The Pines of the Appian Way. If that comes on the radio, that's one of those pieces. If I'm pulling into my house, my driveway, I have to stay in the car and hear the end of it. So be curious out there, people. Be curious. Discover new things. Don't be afraid of those new things, because you may be surprised. You may be shocked. You may be challenged. And being challenged is a good thing. I'm going to be doing a couple more classical videos here too, but thank you for having me indulge you on this one, and I'll see you on the next video.